tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, AfterBuzzers, and welcome to the 8th week of the 4th season of Showtime's original series, Homeland. This episode is entitled Halfway to a Donut. I'm your host, Thaddeus Massey, and joining me today is...
It's me, Nando Velasquez. How you guys doing? We're missing two. We're
down two. We're missing Alexi Hamasfar and Danny Hoyt. They're flying to friendly skies right now on their way back.
On different flights, right?
On different flights,
On different flights, but they're both stuck. I guess it's the holidays. Or almost the holidays.
It's getting close to the holidays. They're just busy people. They got a lot going on.
Yeah, we got no lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're doing it big. We're at TV. Anyway, this was a really good episode. It seems like it's one of those.
That's an understatement. Well, I thought this was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was
a great
great.
episode.
It was great. It was really actually great for something transitional as well. Like, it was a transitional episode, but it was really good for our transitional episode because there's obviously a lot of bigger things coming in the next week or two.
Well, first of all, I think it's hilarious that the name of this episode is Halfway to a Donut, because it sounds like such a a boring title. It sounds like such a, I don't even know exactly what they're referring to. The only thing I could think of is maybe when Tasneem and Dennis are like at the little table trying to get their own snacks. But maybe because that was such a little, a nice central scene because of the reveal at the end.
Right.
Halfway to a donut, or maybe halfway to a donut is like doing, I don't know, like doing a 180. I don't know. I'm trying to, if anyone has any ideas, I know we spent time on Redux last week. That was an easier was an easier one to figure out. Halfway
maybe
to
because
a donut,
it was about, I don't know, does it have something to do with Saul? Because Saul ended up right back where he started instead of...
But that's not halfway to a donut,
isn't halfway to a donut.
But I guess it kind of is.
That's
I don't
more
know.
of a full donut. I don't know.
If anyone has an idea. But this episode, I mean, this is... Since the first scene from the first episode this season when Sandy was in trouble, like I didn't feel that way since then. There's a lot of action, a lot of suspense, some really good jump at your seats moments. I mean, there were so many times I thought Saul was gone. I thought he was gone this episode. I was like, no freaking way. Yeah.
I actually, there was a couple of times I did tell him, like, is his contract up or...
Yeah, I know, because we're living in LA, so we're thinking, is his contract up? Was he not able to renegotiate? Because it's like, who would want to lose Saul?
You don't want to lose Saul.
You don't want to lose. I would rather lose Carrie than Saul. I hate to say that, but I would rather lose Carrie than Saul because I feel like you could always get someone else to replace Carrie. But I feel like Saul is just too...
There's no way you can get somebody else to replace Carrie on this show.
No, but there's no way you can get anyone to replace Saul on this show either. I don't know. I'd almost rather have Saul than Carrie. I hate to say that. I love Carrie. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like you could always have another protege come up that's flawed and has their own issues.
That's true. Saul, if they take that angle on it, they could.
But Saul, you can't really have... I mean, look at who Saul's successor is. It's Lockhart. It's a totally different character.
Right.
I don't know if
that's a totally different storyline.
Yeah.
And everything.
But anyway.
Well, one thing I loved to see was that when Saul, when he faked his hanging in the cell, I love that because that to me was like, I'm like, this guy is a real spy. He's a real agent. This guy he's digging in the crates and pulling out some old shenanigans and he's like putting it to work. I loved how it was so funny how he spit on the guy after he strangled him to death.
It looked like I replayed that a couple of times. I was watching it on my computer screen because I was watching an advanced screener, and it looked like a kind of like a. I wasn't sure if it was a spit. It was just a weird cut. It looked like. It felt like a spit, but it doesn't make sense to me that he spit on him for some reason.
I think he spit on him.
I'm not sure if you saw it on the big screen.
Yeah.
You saw it on the big screen. I saw it on a small screen, but I replayed it a couple of times because I said, did he really spit on him? I thought that was just a weird.
Yeah, he spit on him.
Really?
If you thought that and you rewound it a couple of times to watch and see, he spit on him.
All right. I mean, I'm not sure, but I'll take your word for it. I said I kind of thought so, but after I played it like the third time, I'm like, no, he didn't. It was just cut at a weird spot when he was doing something that looked like spitting. But
well, it makes sense. and it's consistent with his views of them. He was, you know,
I don't think he's disgusted by them.
He is definitely disgusted by them.
Not like, well, not. I don't know.
I mean, he told Carrie, like, told Carrie to get off comms, make sure it's just her and him.
If that was
and
Connie,
take a promise.
If that was Connie, I could see him spitting on him. I don't know if he could.
But
spit
they
on
all
the guard.
represent the same. They all represent the same faction.
All right, I'm probably talking out my ass. Okay, all right, fine. He spit on him.
I think he spit on him.
Okay.
I don't know. You guys will tell us in.
You know what? If you saw that
in the cybersphere, what you guys think? But
yeah, trust me, that will say stuff on the cybersphere. If you saw that and I thought I saw it, even though I replayed it and then I had a chance to say it probably was. So anyway, but I mean, if you think about it, I mean, first of all, just seeing that video with the flag in the background, you know, that's so reminiscent of a beheading.
Yeah.
I mean, so even seeing that to me like elicits a reaction. Seeing that,
Most definitely.
and then seeing the nails when he first notices those nails, which are kind of dangerous, just hanging out like
just
that,
sitting like in the middle of the floor.
So I thought he was going to use the nails to kill himself actually at first, but then we see him use it to actually unshackle the handcuffs.
Yeah, I figured that's what he was going to use them for.
And then you're like, oh, so he's not trying to kill himself. And then next scene he's hanging himself, and you're like, oh my god, he's going to kill himself again.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he faked it. He somehow persevered past that, and it was a ploy to get the guard in.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
And then of course the promise that he made Carrie say and all that. It was just like I kept thinking like, oh, I think he's a goner this episode. I hate to say it, but
right.
I love this kind of TV. This is awesome.
It's so interesting also how Carrie was willing to kill him at first when Quinn was not willing to allow it to happen.
Yeah.
Now she wants to save him, and he wants to kill himself.
Well, in the spur of the moment, gut reaction, she's
going
like, take
him out. That's
she's
her goal.
going for Hakani.
Right.
But now she had time to think about it, and now here she is. And
well, they've convened and had meetings on saving this guy and figuring out what they're going to do.
And there's Lockhart. I mean, we could definitely get into that. I mean, it's really interesting the fact that he made her promise, and Quinn even mentioned it later on when she admitted what Saul told her. Quinn said, "That's what you always said." Saul would say he'd rather die first.
Right.
And
because he knows what's at stake. He doesn't want to allow that's almost kind of like his life's work.
Yeah.
Like part of what he's invested into CIA, and all of it's going to go down the drain all because he got caught.
Well, I think, there's something there. Last week's show was so weird that we had on here. And I don't feel like we had a fair shake on talking about, because I still am confused in a way as to why Lockhart. I mean, I think I got a clue this episode a little bit, but why Lockhart really wants to keep Saul alive, why it's in the government's best interest to get Saul back, even if it means giving Hakani all these people. They said he'd have control from here to Kabul or something like that, from Islamabad to Kabul. And why it wouldn't be a smarter play to just let Saul die or let Saul kill himself or whatever it is.
Well, when Carrie had that meeting, when she she got her whereabouts or whatever about her, and she left Khan's house, and she had that meeting with Quinn and Lockhart in that small room, and she realized that there was a breach, her pills had been switched out, and Lockhart actually expressed with conviction that he would not have his predecessor.
Well, that was the
beheaded
line
on a spike.
I
was like,
that made sense to me.
Is he really? But what's his like? Is it just for principle?
Well, I think what it is. Here's what I think.
Political? Like, what is it?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I think what it is it sets a precedent that if it's kind of like the same thing. You know what? It's kind of like the same thing with the police and a cop killer. Like nobody kills a cop. If someone goes to kill a cop, that person is pretty much, they've just signed their own tombstone, because that's the one thing that you do not do, because the last thing they want to do is set a precedent in the streets. I'm talking about like police out here.
I understand.
They want to set a precedent out here where people feel like the police are people you can kill. So I think it's the same thing here. They don't want to set a precedent where the Taliban or Haqqani or whoever it is can just kidnap any U.S. official,
CIA
exactly,
director,
because then all bets are off. They need to show strength that everyone, even former directors,
right?
Are
it's like former presidents,
yeah, it's like a former president,
whoever, somebody who's in high position or high standing,
exactly,
high status.
If it was Clinton, if it was like Bill Clinton being kidnapped for something, I would assume that the government would do the bet. They couldn't just say, well, he knows the rules. He might as well, accept defeat and kill himself. No, they want to save him because, again, it sets a precedent on the president or any other official.
That goes back to publicity and PR and how things look and how they're perceived.
Yeah,
that's part of the war.
Of course.
That's a huge weapon in America's or the U.S.'s favor.
Yeah.
That they have this media power that actually molds the perceptions of the populace of the world, pretty much.
Well, yeah, don't mess with us type of mentality. But, you know, it wasn't as apparent to me, I think maybe because of Lockhart's relationship with Saul last season, even though they kind of had some closure and they kind of got, you know, they both got what they wanted.
Yeah.
It still was, to me, I just found it real, especially the way Lockhart is. I mean, some people seem to like him. He seemed to definitely appeal to me more this episode, the way he was a little more, you know, reserved and patient. And he, you know, the ambassador Martha was telling him to be, you know, those 3 T's. I wrote them down somewhere. I can't remember. Transparent and
there were 3 T's. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was transparent, and then there was another 2, and one of them he didn't even know. But which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, I ended up liking Lockhart a little bit more. But I kind of understand now why. I understand more as to why they really want to keep Saul alive. But still, Carrie had an out. You know, or at least the government had an out, you know. I think they could have gotten him in that rescue attempt. There was no way they can get at him.
You know what sucks for Lockhart is that he knows that their government is working with Haqqani. At least there is sub-factions in their government.
Well, I loved when he said, looking over your list, and then the prime minister was like, that's not our list. That's Haqqani's, that's the Taliban's list. He got offended. And I wonder if Lockhart said that on purpose or if that was just a little slip up, but it was an awesome moment.
But they already made it clear that as far as they're concerned, how do we know that you're not working with them? As far as we're concerned, okay, you guys have an open line of communication, and there's no way you can prove to us that you guys are not or do not have some level of involvement with this. So as far as we're concerned, we're going to treat this like you guys have kidnapped Saul and you guys are holding Saul. I think and he made that clear.
He made it clear last week.
Right, he made that clear, and that's where their head is at. Although the ambassador doesn't feel that way, she's being way more political in this situation than Lockhart, obviously, because she's been there for a while and she's developed relationships. But I feel like the situation needs a Lockhart.
Well, I think, you know, somebody on the YouTube comments mentioned good cop, bad cop, and I think maybe that's kind of like what this is, except for the fact that the bad cop didn't bother telling the good cop about the plan, you know, from last week at least, and now we see that. For whatever reasons, whatever perceptions I had last week, we see that Lockhart is willing to play ball with Martha, with the ambassador. So, you know, and have her take control, even though, you know, they're going to push his buttons, and they obviously are. And there's some, you know, we saw there's a lot. It's just an amazing scene that they have this little boring tactical meeting to talk about the prisoner list. Meanwhile, all this action's happening on in the background. I mean, there was so much to love about this episode. I mean, I feel like we're kind of scattered around right now, but yeah, it's just, you know, just to see that. And I think that's diplomacy at work. It's like, okay, look, you know, and that's what the Pakistanis are doing. They're like, okay, we'll play nice with you, but maybe not the prime minister, but at least Tasneem and who knows who else are busy doing this hunt, you know, the hunt for Saul, while all this little boring stuff's happening in the background. And then on the other end, you see Carrie and Lockhart leave because they realize there's something's up. And you just see the ambassador just playing with the prime minister and Tasneem. And that one moment when Tasneem gets that text in Arabic, which is probably like everything's, you know, I couldn't read it, but probably like everything's under control. And and the ambassador's like, maybe we should take a break. And she's like, no. We're good. We could hang because she was just in control the whole episode.
Yeah, exactly. So she knows what's going on. And, you know, obviously now, just what we suspected from before about Officer Khan, he's not actually on the same team or a part of whatever. I think some things are obviously going to be revealed about Tasneem, as we see in coming episodes or whatever. But it's almost obvious that she's more of a on the
fringes. No, not
fringes. I think she's just a mole. I mean,
with Tasneem?
Yeah.
Oh, a mole for them?
Yeah.
Perhaps. I'm still a little curious about the whole thing with Khan, with Asar and Tasmin, because, you know, obviously
I don't think they're working together.
They're not working together, but I'm just still wondering how much information you know, Asar actually has on the whole thing, because you know, when they had that little they bumped into each other right before the meeting started when he was running late, you know, and Tasmin was like, you know, why'd you interfere? You know, it almost felt like he knew about the plot a little bit. The way she said it. Why did you interfere? Yeah. You know, because she was even like, Carrie could have been on a plane by now. So I don't know exactly if he's completely innocent in all of this. But and then I'm wondering what his motives are. And I'm wondering what his motives are, because we definitely, especially from the end of last week's episode, we're definitely seeing a little bit of a connection between him and Carrie right now, and a possible love interest. And I know I think somebody even put it up on I think somebody put it up on YouTube as well. I can see that possibly. Look, Carrie gets involved with the wrong people all the time. I could see this one happening.
I unfortunately saw something as well, and I'm hoping that
I unfortunately saw
I really hope that's why I didn't mention it, because I'm just hoping that nothing occurs out of this, because she just finished with Ayan, for crying out loud.
But that's also why I'm wondering. I'm wondering why. You have to understand, why did he give Carrie that information about Dennis Boyd? Why did he do that? Did he do that?
We did witness him notice an exchange between.
I know.
So that's what also would make us think that, okay.
But why is he throwing his own person under the bus? Why is he throwing his own agency?
Or did he just out Boyd? I don't think he mentioned Tasneem.
Well, first of all, he outed Boyd, but obviously that's going to mess up Tasmin's plans, because she's using him as the breach, as the mole.
Well, we're going to find out more next week, obviously. But
here's the thing. Okay, if you work for a company and somebody's doing something, you know, duplicitous, you know, whatever, and you're aware of it, you know, chances are, and you're in charge. I mean, what's his title? They finally said his title, because I put it on here somewhere, but he's like ISI director. Forgive me, I'll find it. But anyway, ISI counterterrorism chief. So that's a pretty big title.
Yeah, it is.
Right? You figure he has some control.
Yeah.
So if he's noticing something funny going on with Tasmin and you know, and Dennis, and he thinks it's undermining even the Pakistanis' relationship with the U.S., don't you think he would try and get her legitimately through his own channels?
Well, maybe that's what's going to happen next week, because obviously he met with the weeks to come. Yeah. Because when he met with Carrie on that final scene. You know, he told her.
I think he's throwing Tasmin under the bus or messing up her things, but I'm still wondering what his intentions are for. I really feel like there's more. It's a little more complicated than I just want to help you, Carrie. Either I'm interested in you, Carrie, or Tasmin's kind of like in his way,
interested in you, Carrie.
Or I'm just trying to get rid of Tasmin because he doesn't like Tasmin either, but he can't officially do it because, you know, because again, we don't know how deep. We don't know exactly if Tasmin's working on her own or how many people on the Pakistani side really are part of this agenda.
Well, him actually outing Boyd to Carrie will give Carrie, that's obviously enough information for them to act on their side and keep him insulated far enough away where it doesn't leave any traces to Tasneem and everybody else she's working with on the Pakistani side. Yeah. So when things start to implode for them on that side, he'll already be a step ahead because he already will know what's going on. So he obviously has an agenda, and I think it has way more to do with him being interested in Carrie like that. Well, I think he doesn't want to hook up with her, but I think he definitely has an agenda of what's going on, and I'm sure it'll be revealed. I hope it's just not out of the goodness and kindness of his heart, because that would just be really boring for TV. But I think he has an agenda. I'm hoping that he has one.
Yeah, well, I think it's yet to be revealed. It's more than just, I like you, here's some information. I know that, but again,
maybe he's the one that was working with Sandy.
No, we already know who was working with Sandy.
Who was working with Sandy again?
Tasmin. Tasmin was working with Sandy.
Did they make that clear?
Yeah,
that it was her.
I mean, Sandy and Dennis were working together, and then Tasmin, when she went to meet Dennis at the college, she said that they had a relationship. She had a relationship with Sandy.
Okay, so then I'm really curious about what Khan's angle is, because he has.
Well, that's why. But I don't know what his angle is either. But I don't know if it's internally, trying to mess around with trying to mess up Tasmin. Yeah. Trying to put his own foothold in or try and take control on his own, or if he's really legitimately has a heart all of a sudden and just cares about Carrie. I just feel like, politically speaking, I feel like there's got to be more than just, I feel sorry for this woman.
Right.
You know? I feel like it's a lot more than that. I mean, they had that moment at the end of last week's episode, even though Carrie was in the middle of her episode, you know, herself.
Yeah.
And, you know, she even admitted she remembered.
Right.
You know, they had this rendezvous out in the rain at the very end. I mean, it just feels very...
romantic.
In a way. Come on, you see it. You see it.
Oh,
I mean, whether you want to or not, you do see it.
I don't want to.
So, I know you don't want to. Hey, you know what? Much better him than a college student. Okay.
Is it just me? Right, I know, right? Is it just me, or I don't know about people that watch the show as well, feel like the ambassador is like clueless to a certain degree? I'm starting to look at her like her head is in the clouds and she's looking at the state of affairs like it's totally... I
wouldn't call it clueless. I mean,
not what it is. Like... what do you think is going on?
It's not her job to be, you know, an intelligence agent. So she's only dealing with what she
knows
has.
What's going on.
Well, she does, but I think her role is diplomacy. I mean, her role this episode was, let me stall. Her role was, let me put on a good face. You know, let me put on a good face with the U.S. Let's look like things are going as planned, even though we have people working in the background to rescue Saul at this point. You know. To extradite him, to get him. I don't know if extradite's the right word, but you know what? To get him back, to rescue him. Extract him.
Extraction.
Thank you, Sean. Sean, our producer, who's there for my English.
The vocab.
The vocab coach. He's my vocab coach.
All right.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think she's clueless. I think she's very, very smart. I think she shows that she's smart, but her strengths are very different. I mean, there was that great scene with her and Lockhart, saying that it's her job to, you know, Lockhart's saying like, you know, it's your job to save face. He goes, well, it's my job to find the common ground. And then Lockhart says, well, they hate our guts. How's that for, you know, for common ground?
Right.
Yeah. So
they do.
Yeah, and they do.
Or maybe they just hate his guts. Everything seemed like it was copacetic until he showed up, and then everything actually there was stuff going on.
He's a good
covertly.
He's a good reason for people to hate.
Right. And it was so funny how she told her husband that he needs to stay close and stay safe. There's been a breach.
Well,
we know about it. Blah blah blah.
I mean, again, it's just. I mean, the way this episode's written is just so well. I mean, Carrie obviously only trusting Lockhart and Quinn, and then Lockhart wanting to bring the ambassador in on it, and deep inside we're like, no, because you know she's going to tell her husband,
right? And
you know, Carrie saying no, and then finally the ambassador gets to find out, and of course she goes and tells Dennis, and you know, it's just, again, just so much back and forth. You know, it's like there were so many moments where I was like, I almost went ghetto on the screen. I think, you know, it was pretty damn cool.
Do you think
I actually liked it?
Do you think that the Americans overestimate their ability and power and
absolutely
blah 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 and everything?
Based on this episode, absolutely.
Especially with the thwarted rescue attempt of Saul.
You know, it's something really interesting that I think is very apparent. I know that, you know, people listen to us internationally, so I think as Americans we don't think about it as much, but I think in certain countries, especially certain countries that have dealt with war and dealt with a lot of conflict, that they're more comfortable, right? You know, like in the US, you know, it's so easy to turn on Fox News and get scared over the slightest little alert, right? You know, but like in places like the Middle East, this is what they have to deal with every single day. I mean, the US just in this episode, right, they just figured, all right, let's just put a drone out there and just follow Saul. And meanwhile, the Taliban are thinking, oh, cool, we know where Saul is now. Thanks for flashing that. You know, they look at that little itty-bitty drone and they look at it like a big flashing signal saying he's over here.
Right, exactly.
He's over here. And so the whole time, like, you know, and us, me watching as an American who probably doesn't know any better, is thinking, oh, great, they're getting a drone. Oh, good, they're getting special forces over there. You know, we're thinking, oh, wow, we're in control again. Yeah. But meanwhile, the Taliban are like, great, Thank you. It's kind of like that scene. It's kind of like Die Hard, the movie Die Hard, when the FBI agents come in to try and save the day and they do all the protocol, and then you find out that Hans Gruber said all along, oh, I was just waiting for the FBI to come because I know exactly every single move they're going to make, and I know what to do once they make those moves. I'm waiting for them to show up. It was almost the same thing. It was like, Saul's on the loose. We have no idea where to find him. Oh, he contacted the U.S. We know where he is now because there's a drone over his head.
Right.
So I think that's really interesting.
And Carrie being the drone queen, I think it's interesting that she didn't think. I mean, there's been scenes where there was somebody who actually, it was like Haqqani, I think, and one or two other people actually looked up in the sky.
Well, Ayan is the big one. I mean, his first scene and his last scene pretty much is him looking up at a drone straight in the sky.
Right.
So they're familiar with it. And
so it's not like you didn't think about this before. Like, how do you think they're obviously gonna look for Saul? They're gonna realize he's gone, and then how are you gonna keep track of Saul? Yeah. They're gonna find where the drone is, and then they're gonna find out where he's at based on where you put the drone.
Well, I mean, it sounds. I mean, I don't know the feasibility of it. I have never really spotted a drone up from the. I don't know if they're shooting at us right now or whatever, but I haven't really spotted a drone like that unless they're the leisurely ones that people seem to buy around LA and have every now and then. So I don't know how easy they might be to spot, but apparently the Taliban are so used to especially out in the Middle East, out in these countries, the U.S. have been flying drones so much that in these countries they're so used to drones that they're probably very easily spottable now. Especially if you don't want to be caught doing something, you just look up, you hunt for a drone, you're like, okay, there's one on me, and you don't do it. You know, I mean, Haqqani, like you said, Haqqani even said it. There's a drone over me right now. He doesn't have to look up. He's like, there's a drone. There's a drone above me right now.
He looks down and he sees the shadow.
Is that what it was?
No, it was just.
Oh yeah, and he sees the shadow. It was a joke. Oh, okay. All right, stick to vocab.
Poorly played.
It's good. It's possible I missed the shadow. But yeah, I mean, I think it says a lot for what we don't know about like war or about what we have to go through out in the field. I'm actually surprised in a way. I wonder in a way if in real life, like the FBI are aware of that drones aren't just easy, like, let's just put a drone on them, if they realize they have to account for other tactics. Right. Like, I guess if the U.S. knew the Taliban was spotting a drone, they'd probably send like 3 or 4 drones out to different locations and spread the Taliban out, or the same thing with special forces. Right. But they didn't think that way.
How do you feel, and I want to know how you guys feel about this as well out there, because I know there's a lot of mixed feelings and mixed reactions about Carrie leading Saul right back into the arms of the Taliban.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Saul was livid. He was at the brink of, he was about to blow his brains out because he was like, I will not go back to these people. Plus, as far as he's concerned, his life isn't worth the trade that they're about to make. Yeah. So, it was like, and plus he made Carrie a promise, or Carrie made him a promise. He made Carrie make him a promise that she wouldn't do that. Well, and of course she breaks the promise. So do you think this? I think one of the questions is, do you feel like it's selfish? Because at the end of the day, if she's doing it for her own, like, I need Saul, I want Saul kind of thing, as opposed to, I think anybody else, I think Lockhart would just let him kill himself. I don't think it was selfish necessarily for her, but I do think, obviously it was a really big scene when Saul asked her, to talk just one-on-one with nobody else listening, and he made her promise, and he said the things that he said about, I will not go back there at all, But it's just interesting because she was willing to blow him up. Or she said she was. You're right. She was like, pull that goddamn trigger, like, shoot him. Like, she was willing to, sacrifice his life. Yeah. When Ayan got shot by Haqqani. Yeah. Well, but again, now it's what's different.
That was a spur of the moment.
Now there's higher stakes.
Well, I don't know if there's higher stakes. I guess there's higher stakes. There are,
because now they're negotiating this trade with 5 leaders that would actually change the game, and not in our favor for the Americans.
Well, I mean, this is a very, look, first of all, we haven't really explored this relationship in this way in a while between Carrie and Saul since the first couple of seasons at least. We haven't really seen this mentor protege, like, even like his wife was like, oh yeah, it's Carrie, it's almost like his other girlfriend. We haven't explored the extent of this relationship, and yeah, I know you can compare it to that moment when she was going to bomb Haqqani with Saul there, spur of the moment, like her tunnel vision, her eyes on that prize, right? And even knowing that Saul would have said the same thing, But at the end, this is his mentor, and you know, if she can get him out, she'll do everything in her power to get him out. She, you know, here he is giving up. Here he is saying, "I will not be a pawn," and here she is. I mean, she even said when she finally let him back to the Taliban, she's like, "We're gonna thread the needle, but I will get you out of there. I'm in the control room. I will get you out of there."
And I think at that time, keeping him alive is what's gonna really get him out of there, and they're gonna have some kind of other plan.
I think
I mean, he can be alive. That doesn't mean he won't get tortured. You know.
Well, don't forget, Lockhart said if he gets hurt, the deal's off. So I would like to. Was
it, or was it just proof of life? Because he said the president just wanted proof of life.
No, he said
every day.
no. He did. Yeah, they said that later on in the in that little like meeting where they were stalling and everything. But before that, he told the Pakistanis if he's hurt at all, deal's off. He said that. He said that at the very beginning. He said that very early on in this episode. I still think that Carrie believes she can get him out. She doesn't know how. I don't think she was lying to him when she said, I mean, she was lying to him when she said they're waiting for you at the rendezvous point, but I don't think she was lying to him when she said, I'm in the ops room. We will thread the needle, but you need to do exactly as I say. I think she still believes in some kind of way that this can be salvaged. She doesn't know how, but she is willing to risk having him captured again and risk this whole thing going down the way it shouldn't be going down. She has a little more faith in that than Saul.
I'll be totally honest with you. I really loved seeing Saul in some action.
Yeah.
Carrie is not really. Well, I don't want to say Carrie's not involved in any action because
Carrie is.
She's involved in action, but I just felt like Saul's action was just more spy-like.
Well, here's an interesting. Here's an interesting
I
question.
enjoyed watching it. Like,
yeah. Well, first of all, we see the roles reversed. Right. As far as Carrie, you know, in previous seasons has been the one on the field,
right,
and Saul's been the one calling the shots from the control room, from the comm room, and telling her where to go, for example, or having his people tell her where to go. So now here we are seeing the opposite, and the stakes are obviously much higher. Saul's life is definitely, well, in danger, you know, and a lot more than that. So you know, it almost makes me wonder if the roles were reversed. Do you think Saul would pull the trigger on Carrie if the roles were reversed and Saul was back in the comm room and Carrie was the one that was being chased down by the Taliban for the trade?
That's a good question.
Because I think,
let us know what you guys think about that. I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Well, what's your gut? Do you think Saul will pull the trigger and have her killed, or have her kill herself, or whatever it is?
You mean back when Ayan was killed?
No. I'm talking about this same scene. The same scene that we're seeing right now, but what if it was Carrie? No. What if it was Carrie on the run?
Probably
and it
not.
Was? You think that Saul would not pull the trigger, or do you think he would pull the trigger on Carrie?
I think he would not.
Yeah,
I think he would not pull the trigger on Carrie.
I kind of feel like he wouldn't either. As much of a military man as he is, I think that relationship is still strong.
I think he would figure a way in his mind to get her out.
And I think Carrie would have the same reaction if she got caught. She'd be cursing Saul to hell. The way, I mean, that was a pretty big moment too. Like,
you could like hear him. Like, where's the phone at? Is he still holding the phone?
He's yelling so damn hard that it doesn't matter where the phone is. Yeah,
like, oh,
he is cursing the hell out of her.
Like, oh wow, he's gonna be mad for a while.
And this is a woman who's haunted already. You know,
yeah.
I mean, she was just dealing with her inner demons last episode when she had that vision of Brody. You know, about letting him die. So I think that also is. You have to remember, I think that also is one of the reasons why Carrie is not pulling the trigger now, even though she was ready to do it 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Is because she had that revelation with that scene with Brody.
She lost Brody. She lost Ayan. Yeah. She's not gonna.
That scene with Brody.
She's not gonna green light Saul to off himself.
Yeah.
She's not gonna do that.
No, that scene with Brody was a big scene. I said that last week, and I think it was a big scene because it really was like an aha moment for her.
Right.
As far as she got to realize, like, oh my, you know, like all this pent-up emotion, all this pent-up anger and energy that she had over Brody.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of made her switch a bit too. So again, I mean, this is, oh God, I think this is my favorite episode this season.
Really?
I really think this is my favorite episode this season so far.
Okay.
Yeah, just for all the reasons we listed, and probably 5 more I can't even think of right now, but so many awesome reasons. You know, and then Tasmin, let's talk about her a little bit, because I think, like, I mean, she was just so cool and calm and collected this whole episode. I hated her. You know?
Well, she's in the driver's seat.
I know.
She has a reason to be calm and cool and collected. So
yeah. I mean, she was, holy crap. I mean, when she, like I said that scene already, but when she was just hanging out, you know, checking out her phone. Yeah. And then just saying, no, we could stay, we could hang. That was like, I got this under control.
Right.
I mean, even seeing in the meeting when Carrie was in the meeting and noticed that nobody in the Pakistanis, that no one had any inkling of feeling uncomfortable. They weren't letting anything. They weren't worried.
Even Carrie was like, "Why aren't they worried?"
Yeah, she wrote that, and yeah, again, it was such a really amazing scene.
But there's more evidence. That's more evidence right there that the Pakistanis are actually working.
Well, no, it doesn't mean that necessarily, because it just means they don't know that Saul escaped. That's all
but
it means.
She's like, why aren't they? But why? I mean, even as a panel.
Yeah.
She's saying, why aren't they worried?
Because the ones who did know,
it wasn't just based on Tasneem.
Well, because you know
them
what?
as a group,
it's
it
all
seemed
information.
like to be just a little bit relaxed.
Yeah.
Like,
you mean it relaxes in like they don't. They're
not really worried. So maybe they all knew.
You're confusing me. The people who knew, the people
not
who
just Tasneem, I'm saying.
No, I get this. What I'm trying to tell you is, if they don't release information that Saul escaped, there's no reason to worry. If a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, why are you going to worry about it?
Right, of course.
So that's pretty much what the Taliban did. The Taliban didn't release any information about Saul escaping to anybody other than their own people, but even amongst their own people, they had a plan to capture him back. So that's why Tasneem had no problems, because she felt they were under control.
Right.
And then let's say the prime minister has no idea about Saul escaping. He has no reason to be worried, because he's completely ignorant to the possibility of Saul having escaped. He's completely oblivious to.
But here's the thing. I think there was some level of urgency based on the situation from them before, because Lockhart had threatened them, and they don't know what's going on with the situation. So,
no, I didn't see that.
Why are they? I'm just trying to see from Carrie's perspective what she was talking about. Like, why are they not worried? They don't seem worried anymore. So it was like they were kind of anxious before.
Well,
based on what was going on, because there's a lot at stake.
I think we're looking too far into it. I just think that, you know, she obviously doesn't know who is on, you know, in this cover up.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't know who's involved with Haqqani, but she just noticed that if everybody seems to be okay and there's no one fidgeting, that there's just something wrong.
Right.
And I think it's just her instincts going into full effect, and I think, you know, she's really good. But there is one thing I want to bring up before because I know we're wrapping up really soon, and I think we've gotten just about everything. We still don't know exactly what the message was that Tasneem gave to Dennis in that napkin, because we haven't really seen Dennis after that.
Right.
You know, Dennis was nervous about the breach. So he wanted out when he had that little conversation with Tasneem, but she said she wanted another favor, and she handed him that napkin. And that was, of course, when Asar saw Dennis take the napkin, and he realized that he was the breach.
But we haven't seen him since then.
We haven't seen him do anything since then.
Okay,
so as far as I'm concerned, so as far as we're concerned, everything that was happening with Saul had nothing to do with Dennis. So
no,
had nothing to do with Boyd at all. So whatever it is, Boyd, either he's doing it or has done it or is about to do it. And I think it also just leads to, you know, how are they going to deal with this breach now? You know, it's probably a sensitive subject. Are they going to try and manipulate this fact to get more, to get back on top? Are they going to maybe give him some misinformation, or are they just going to, you know, arrest him, or what are they going to do? Because there's a lot of ways they could probably go with Boyd.
Misinformation.
Yeah,
I mean, use him. Way.
I would think that would be the spy way to do it.
Yeah, that's the best way. In that way, and then they'll have evidence, because they'll have to tell the ambassador this is what happened.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of possibilities.
They can set him up easily though, because he's a putz. It'd be easy to set him up.
Yeah, I would think. Yeah, the way he's acting, yeah, he's a putz.
The plagiarist.
He's just lucky.
The plagiarist professor.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so let's go to predictions for next week.
Yeah. It's very low, Sean. It's very low. Okay. I think we're having some technical difficulties. Our audio for our bumper was really, really low.
Well, we can see for next week that there's obviously a trade coming into effect with these 5
spoilers, by the way, for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For these 5 leaders
For the prisoner list that
the
prisoner list that the U.S. is gathering for Haqqani. Definitely a big standoff. We didn't see in scenes for next week was anything with Dennis in it. So, which surprises me considering that was the big reveal at the very end of the episode.
Well, we'll probably still see something with him, I'm sure.
Well, I think the question is to what extent. Are they just going to arrest him, or are they going to use him in some kind of way? Obviously if they arrest him, hopefully he'll blurt out about Tasmin, so then they'll know it's Tasmin. That's the
they'll do the same thing that they did with they'll do the same thing they did with with Brody. He'll become a double agent.
Dennis will be a lame double agent.
He would be lame.
He'd be a lame double agent.
So they'll have to enact him to make him extract from them when they already think that he's working for them. So that's probably what they'll do with him.
I'm just gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say the reason why we don't see Dennis is because somehow he is going to die. I think he's gonna be gone. I think we've kind of predicted that in the past, but I just feel like somehow it can't be all that easy. They can't just use him. I think Dennis is gonna find an untimely death.
Okay.
At the hands of Tasmin, most likely, if she can get her hands on Dennis before anybody else.
So you think that Boyd will die? I think that they'll turn him into a double.
Okay, fair enough.
I think they'll turn him into a double. I think he will probably still eventually die.
Yeah.
But I think they'll turn him into a double and use him first.
What do you think about Asar? What any predictions about Asar?
I think there's gonna be some. I'm hoping, I got both fingers crossed, that this isn't all about him having some romantic interest in Carrie, that he has his own political, professional agenda.
I hope it's not just about that either, but I'm sure it's more than that.
I mean, I want it to be more about that than be about Carrie, because, I mean, that's too much bed hopping for Carrie, for as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
She needs to be trying to get back to her baby in America.
Yeah, I know. It's hilarious.
Kid.
We haven't heard anything about that in a long time. They've been a little busy, though.
Yeah, but those are my predictions. So that's my main prediction, I guess.
All right, cool.
So where can they find you until next week?
Well, you can find me here on other AfterBuzz shows like The Walking Dead, which I'm actually doing right after this. Scorpion and Blacklist is actually on hiatus till February. But you can find me there, or you can find me on Twitter at Nandovel, Nandovel. Also, Danny Hoyt and Lexi Hammesfahr, who aren't here right now. You could find them on Twitter at Danny Hoyt and at Lexi Hammesfahr. It's HAMMESFAHR.
And you can find me on all social media at Club Thaddeus. You can also find me here on Mondays for America's Next Top Model and Monday Night Football, and Thursdays here for How to Get Away with Murder. Until next time, After Buzzers. Peace.
And the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.